and welcome back to Anatomy on Demand. And we are still doing the central nervous system. We have just completed the cerebrum, and now we're going to dive a little bit deeper in the brain. And the first thing we want to do is we want to go down through that longitudinal fissure. And if you go through that longitudinal fissure, the first thing you would notice is that we can still see gyri and sulci until we reach about this level, the place where the arrow is. This is the first place that we're actually having to cut through tissue, because this is a band of tissue that is connecting the right and left hemispheres. We have a bunch of axons going between the two hemispheres of the brain, and this C shape, look, it's kind of like a C, like tilted over. And this C-shaped area, which is highlighted in both pictures, is known as the corpus callosum. Now, if you had the privilege of taking music lessons when you were a child, your corpus callosum is larger than normal. In other words, it's linking the artistic side of your brain with the more mathematical, sciencey part of your brain. Now that you know where the corpus callosum is, I want you to look just superficial to it and find the gyrus that is located there. It's highlighted in purple on the left and has an arrow on the right. And this gyrus has a name. It is known as the cingulate gyrus. And if you notice, the cingulate gyrus extends all the way from like the frontal area through the parietal area, almost back down to the occipital area. So it doesn't belong to any one of those lobes of the brain that we've previously learned. This actually is going to be part of your limbic system, which has to do with biological drives and making memories and emotional things like that you'll learn about in lecture. After this, we're going to dive even deeper, because now we're done with the cerebrum, okay? All of that so far has all been cerebrum. And what happened as the brain developed was the cerebrum actually got bigger than the other parts of the brain, and so it completely encircled parts of the brain. And so we're going to go to the next part of the brain that it encircled, and that is this area, which is highlighted right here, known as the diencephalon. And when we look at the diencephalon, people describe it a couple of different ways. If you notice, there's this oval thing here, which is kind of like an Easter egg. So we've got an Easter egg on each side of the brain. And or other people say, well, it reminds me of a duck's head, where the oval Easter egg would be the duck's head, and then this more triangular area would be like the duck's beak, and then it looks like he's eating, I don't know, a pink cherry or something like that, or she, it could be a female duck, okay? So we're going to talk about structures in that area, which are the diencephalon. So this is only the duck head with the beak and the hanging cherry area. Okay? And so if we were to look at it on a normal drawing without the colorized area, find your corpus callosum, go deep to it. This oval area is the duck head, and then this triangular part is the beak, and there's the little cherry on the stem. Okay, so the oval part, the Easter egg, that is known as the thalamus. And so there's a thalamus on the right side and a thalamus on the left side. And there are some little connections between the two of it. And the thalamus is going to be a real important place, because for all your special senses like vision and hearing and equilibrium, all the neurons are going to go through the thalamus before they go to their final destination. Now that you have found your thalamus, what I want you to do is go inferior to it and slightly anterior to it. Okay? And that part of the brain is then called hypothalamus, which kind of makes sense because hypo means it's underneath it. Okay? So the hypothalamus basically is going to be linking the nervous system with the endocrine system. Okay? And speaking of the endocrine system, you know that cherry on the stalk I was referring to? That's the pituitary gland. That is nervous. That is your endocrine system. So do you see how we are going to have axons of neurons connecting from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland? Now, to put this all in perspective, we go back and we look at the skull, which was cut in the mid-sagittal view. Let me just orient you where you are. Here's the frontal lobe up there. This is the corpus callosum. There is the oval thalamus. Here's the hypothalamus. And in purple, there's the pituitary gland. And notice the pituitary gland is sitting in that Turkish saddle, that sella turcica of the sphenoid bone. And we know it's the sphenoid bone because there's our huge sphenoid sinus sitting right there. So hopefully now you're able to visualize in 3D exactly where in the brain this is. Okay. Continuing with this diencephalon area, if we go posterior and just kind of like stuck onto the thalamus. There's a part of the brain known as the epithalamus, which is not a term I'm having you learn, but there's really only one important structure in the epithalamus, and that's this little tiny little ballish thing here, which is the pineal gland. And the pineal gland, as you'll learn, is important for your circadian rhythm, for your sleep cycles. It is what's responsible. It kicks out that hormone melatonin, not to be confused with melanin, which is what gives you your suntan. Okay. And with that, we are done with the diencephalon. Okay. And we are ready to stop this recording, and we will pick up on the next recording where we talk about the brainstem and some other structures. So once again, keep up all the hard work, and I will see you soon.